And the Eagles needed a miracle with less than a minute to go. Down by 7 to the Cowboys with no timeouts. Carson Wentz delivers a ball over the middle to Zach Ertz, who's able to fight to the 6-yard line. However, with no timeouts, the final seconds ticked off the clock, and the Eagles fall to 4-5 on the season, dropping a heartbreaker by a score of 27-20 to the infamous and hated Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to the Postgame Show presented by Ricoh. I'm Chris McPherson alongside Ike Reese. And Ike, coming out of the bye week, I think Eagles fans felt good that it was Dallas. It was prime time. You were getting the Cowboys in your house. The Eagles acquired Golden Tate to add some juice to the offense. You figured the team would be well rested, knowing that despite the up and down nature of the first half of the season, the team was still 4-4, and the NFC East lead was within striking distance. You had 5 games within a division. But unfortunately, we just saw a lot of the same things that hurt the Eagles in those first 8 games. And really, the biggest thing that stands out to me the most is the inability to close out games. The game was tied at 13 going into the fourth quarter, but the Cowboys get 2 touchdowns. Zeke Elliott taking over on the ground and in the air as well, leading Dallas to the win to keep themselves in the playoff race now that both teams have similar records at 4-5. But really, this game overall, like a microcosm of the struggles that have plagued the Eagles all year long.
Yeah, and you really thought that the bye week would help them sort of cure some of these things that they had struggled with in the first half of the season. You know, coming off that game against Jacksonville in London with a week's rest, you would have thought the team would have come out with a little more energy tonight, being a little sharper, being a little crisper on the offensive side of the ball, and that just didn't happen. You know, Dallas playing on a short week after losing at home to Tennessee, coming off a bye week themselves. They came in ready to play tonight. You know, a lot of people, I'm not saying here in the building here, but around the city just felt like this was a foregone conclusion, that the Eagles, you may as well put this in the W column for them. The Cowboys didn't have anything to play for. But this is the NFL, and if you don't come ready to play, you know, that team will take advantage of it. And I thought today, at least in the first half, we just looked a little lethargic. We didn't look very sharp out there offensively, and it allowed the Cowboys to gain some momentum and gain some confidence to where they felt like they could win this ball game. They felt like they were in control of this game from the first half. And even though the score wasn't out of whack in the first half, it didn't feel like the Eagles had done anything positive in that first half.
Which is why you felt good at least going into halftime, thinking that as much as the Eagles struggled, they were still within the game, able to keep it close. But unfortunately, the offense came to life in the fourth quarter, second half there. Things finally started turning around. The Eagles able to move the ball up and down the field. Problem is, Cowboys were able to do the same as well. The defense just did not have an answer, and it was an undermanned defense to begin with no Jalen Mills, no Sidney Jones. Then you lost Ronald Darby to a knee injury, and it was just too much for the Eagles defensively to overcome. And this is a team that has been so great at stopping the run all season long, ranked number 2 in the league coming into this contest. Well, Zeke Elliott took off. It was really reminiscent of 2016 with Dak Prescott playing well in the second half. Quite honestly, he had some throws, some opportunities in the first half that really could have put the Eagles away. Okay, there was the one pass deep down the sideline. Rasul Douglas was in coverage, but he was beat on the play. Prescott fortunately threw the ball too far down, but you see Douglas signaling incomplete passes. If that pass is there, that's going to be 6 right there. That's a touchdown. And there were a number of those plays. Prescott was running himself into sacks, making some poor decisions. Prescott helped keep the Eagles in the ball game, but in the fourth quarter, when he had to step up and make some big throws, especially on third down. Third down, also the story of this ball game right here. Both offensively and defensively, the Eagles did not convert a first down or a third down situation until the third quarter, and then the Cowboys made some big plays, especially late on third down, to keep drives alive. Even third and long situations, a 3rd and 15, a 3rd and 8 situation, really able to keep things going here.
Yeah, I look at that stat sheet right there, and it's been a long time since you've seen 171 rushing yards on this Eagles defense. And that really was the story, especially in the second half of this game, where the Eagles had opportunities to get off the field on third down and they couldn't get off the field. More importantly, every time they did something positive on the offensive side of the ball, the Cowboys were able to answer it. And I thought Zeke just ran wild in the second half, man. I think that's one thing that I'm real surprised about when I look at this game and I look at the Eagles defense, is how well Ezekiel Elliott was able to have success against this defense.
Yeah, gap discipline not there for the
Yeah.
Eagles defense tonight. So we're going to hear from head coach Doug Pederson and quarterback Carson Wentz. But first, we're going to send it over to the link where Eagles insider Dave Spadaro and Amy Campbell are standing by. And Dave, I'm sure the mood is an ominous one there at the link. Just not the effort you expected from this team coming off the bye with so many big things to look forward to here in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think pretty much nothing to really like about this game. The Eagles defense came up small, the offense lethargic in the first half, tons of missed tackles. Carson Wentz off his game a bit, certainly in that red zone throw to Alshon Jeffrey early on. Camus Grugier-Hill misses an easy interception opportunity. I mean, just, Amy, 3 straight losses at home. The Eagles played without urgency tonight, and they just did not execute when they had a chance, again, to seize momentum of a game.
Yeah, again, another stunned vibe here at home, and I think lethargic is a good word. I was, after that first half, really slow, really ugly, no touchdowns for either team, you're thinking someone's going to come out here with some urgency and get something done, and I'm really surprised by the Eagles defense tonight, allowing ties with season highs through the air for Dak Prescott and on the ground for Zeke Elliott. Just gashed in every which way. The secondary obviously struggling to contain the pass, and then, the D-line just looking gassed there as the game went on.
Yeah, I think the linebackers also struggling. A lot of missed tackles out there. And when you look out on the field and see Rasul Douglas and Shandon Sullivan, no offense to them, but they are not starting players on this defense. The Eagles without their 3 top cornerbacks. And it's just a situation where the Eagles, we keep thinking that this team will wake up and play like it did last year. Stop thinking that way. 2018 is unto itself, and right now the Eagles are a 4-5 team with an uphill battle to get to the postseason.
Well, and you talk about last year, right, able to overcome a lot of injuries, almost, without missing a beat, and here you're really seeing it tonight. You mentioned those 3 DBs that were missing there and really felt their absence, really felt the absence of Lane Johnson as well, just and his impact on the offense, and as the offensive line kind of struggled to help the run game get going and keep Carson Wentz safe back there.
Yeah, and surprising, Amy, that Golden Tate really not much of a factor in this game at all, and understandably only knows a small percentage of the offense, only knows a few packages. But when the Eagles needed him, for example, late in the game, 3rd down screen play goes to Corey Clement. Instead of throwing to the sticks, throwing beyond the sticks, throwing behind the sticks. Not Golden Tate, but Corey Clement, who's struggled in the screen game all year.
Yeah, and I think Tate targeted 5 times or about that much, and one of those completions for him was, you saw the yards after the catch that we talk about. He was able to get that first down, which was key there in the 4th quarter. So interesting to see, like you said, obviously doesn't completely know the playbook quite yet, but that he wasn't used a little bit more tonight.
Yeah, well, 3 straight losses, guys, at home. That is what is shocking here. The Eagles fighting back after a terrible first half, and that late drive for a touchdown by the Cowboys really kind of sums up the defense's struggles this season. Unable consistently to get off the field on 3 downs, 3rd down conversions. Cowboys
great balance. Eagles just unable to really kind of take control of the game.
And looking ahead to New Orleans, a New Orleans team that laid 51 in a win today, that's going to be a big challenge for this defense.
Yeah, the defense that, well, Ronald Darby, when you go out with a knee injury and you are automatically, immediately ruled out, that is certainly some cause for concern. So, Chris, to answer your original question, yeah, a very dejected state of affairs here at Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagles at 4-5 they had everything to play for tonight. They had all the momentum in the world. They had everything going in their favor, and they came up really, really short against a Cowboys team that, frankly, is not that good.
Yeah, not that good.
So
they look great tonight.
Yeah, back to you, Chris and Ike at the NovaCare Complex. We'll hear from Doug Pederson in just a moment.
All right, thank you, Dave and Amy. Dave will have the Eagles Live podcast, which you can download very shortly wherever you consume them, as well as the On the Inside column, to provide a big picture look at everything that went wrong with the Eagles tonight, and really, I guess, what's gone wrong with the team overall this season. So, Ike, let's get into your 3 key takeaways from the game. Again, the Eagles losing 27-20, and it's just so disheartening that of all the teams to lose your third straight home, I can't believe it's been 3 straight home games where the Eagles have come up on the short end of the scoreboard after having home dominance for the better part of a year and a half with Doug Pederson. But Ike, your 3 takeaways from the game tonight.
Well, Chris, when I look at this game, I think back and I think, the second half of this game is where really everything turned. And the secondary that came in shorthanded without Jalen Mills, without Sidney Jones, really started to get exposed once Ron Darby went out of the game. And you had Rasul Douglas out there. You got players out there that aren't used to being out there in these key situations. And I thought Dallas's passing game picked up in the second half. Dak had way too much time, found open receivers everywhere. I thought Jim Schwartz had to go to a little bit more zone defense once he lost Ron Darby. And without getting much of a pass rush, Dak Prescott was able to sit back there and really pick that zone apart. So I thought our secondary struggled at times. Even the rookie, Viante Maddox, having to play 2 different spots, having to play safety versus regular offenses. And then when they went in 11 personnel and brought Cole Beasley in, he had to come down and play in the slot. And then I look at the offensive side of the football, just still haven't put together 4 quarters of play. Another slow start, interception in the first half from Carson Wentz. Can't have that on his first drive. They move the ball down the field, and they can't convert on 4th down when Doug decides to go for it as opposed to kicking a field goal, taking 3 there. So you come up with an empty possession there. And then 3rd downs in the first half. I mean, what did we say? They didn't convert a 3rd down into the second half.
For their first 5, Ike. Yep.
0 for 5 on 3rd downs early in the game. It just too big of a hole, and I think too big of a momentum hole to dig out of for the offense. They gave their best effort, but it's too much of a slow start. And then tackling. I just thought the tackling, either we wore down in the second half or we were just out there as if we hadn't been practicing tackling in a long time. I mean, some of these runs Ezekiel Elliott had in the second half, there were opportunities for guys to bring him down. He was able to run through tackles. I saw receivers, when they caught the ball in the open field, able to break tackles, primarily on key 3rd down situations. We just didn't tackle very well. There were opportunities where you had 1 guy, 2 guys there, and you'd see a Dallas runner or receiver able to break free and pick up extra yardage. So I look at those 3 phases, or those 3 elements of tonight's game, and I say all 3 of those factors contributed big time to this Eagles loss tonight.
You were encouraged early on because the defensive line, without the aid of a blitz, was getting to Prescott
hanging in there, yeah,
and really dealing some damage early on in this ball game. And then even at the start of the second half, first play on offense for the Cowboys, Michael Bennett comes in. They try to do the bootleg. No, Bennett didn't fall for it. Was able to slap Prescott there to get the sack, and you felt, all right, maybe they're setting the tone. They're going to bring here in the second half. And it almost just went off the cliff from there for the most part there. So that's where you wonder if Dallas dominating the time of possession in the first half led to the wear-down effect that you mentioned there in the second half there for the Eagles, and also just the depth along the defensive line, with older guys like Brandon Graham and Chris Long and Michael Bennett. You're asking a lot of those 3 guys in particular for them to come up big throughout the course of the game without the aid of a blitz. It's very tough for them, and then you're not really getting as much penetration inside because it's Fletcher Cox, and if they slide Michael Bennett in there, if they put Brandon Graham in there, that's where you're getting the interior pass rush from. You're not really getting it from the other defensive tackles on the team because you obviously don't have Tim Jernigan still to this point, and then Haloti Ngata, he's more of a run defender, a stuffer at this point. He's not going to provide that pass rush punch for you there. So you're lacking the tools inside there, and just the depth overall is being strained. And then in the secondary, again, you're already starting Rasul Douglas, okay, because you're without Jalen Mills and Sidney Jones. But then all of a sudden, Ron Darby goes out, and you have to go to Chandon Sullivan, who's a rookie free agent, who's just called up from the practice squad. He's just trying to make his way on the team. And then you mentioned Avonte Maddox, who, hats off to him, all right? I give him kudos for, settling in nicely at safety, but then now being asked to go in and play that slot corner position against Cole Beasley, who was one of the guys you had to key in on. Yeah. He was probably really Prescott's go-to guy, as much as Amari Cooper will probably become a bigger part of the offense for them as Cooper gets more entrenched with that scheme. Cole Beasley has been the guy out of the slot, and he's given the Eagles fits for years. Yeah. So you didn't know if you were going to stick Max there or maybe go with Malcolm Jenkins, but Malcolm Jenkins has had his struggles with Cole Beasley over the years. So
just shorthanded.
Shorthanded. It's tough.
Real shorthanded, and I thought the D-line played about as well as they could.
I agree,
considering they were shorthanded. but I thought the back end of the defense really struggled tonight. They really did, whether it was tackling once runners got to the second level or whether it was covering guys. So wide receivers running open in the secondary, and then the tackling in the secondary I didn't think was very good tonight. I thought the effort from the guys up front, it was there. I mean, they kept pressure on Dak Prescott as much as they could. I thought they played the run. You got to give Dallas's offensive line a lot of credit. They're a little banged up, but they are still a formidable offensive line. And when they commit to the running game, they can be very successful at doing it. But if you get everybody rallying to the football and then wrapping up to make tackles, I think you'll bring guys down. I'm thinking about a key play on a third down where Ron Darby, before he got banged up, had a chance to tackle Amari Cooper.
Oh, he just shoulder tackle. He tried to do a shoulder tackle, which had worked at times this season, but not in that situation.
Yeah. You got to wrap up.
Hey, he just and then Cooper bounced off him and it was a third down conversion.
Yep.
It was one of those things early on where, all right, maybe is it a big play throughout the course of the game? No, but it's just one of those little things that you could just pick on and point to say this is what's been wrong with the tackling effort throughout the course of the season, because that's the type of tackler that Ronald Darby has been.
True, yeah.
Right there. So to get back to the offense, right from the jump, okay, the Eagles lost the coin toss, so the Cowboys deferred to go take the ball in the second half. So you say, all right, great, we're going to see Carson Wentz, we're going to see Golden Tate right from the jump, and then the first drive, it's an interception from Carson Wentz, which it seemed like he predetermined the throw. He figured, okay, you got the rookie Leighton Vander Esch at linebacker. I'm going to look to the left, try to get him to pull over. Vander Esch didn't bite for it one bit. I know Sean Lee wasn't out there for the Cowboys tonight, but Vander Esch did a very nice job staying in, not being fooled by the misdirection, and just staying home and getting the interception.
Yeah, I mean, just a play that, Carson, you can't make that play. I mean, I understand you're anticipating, Leighton Vander Esch moving with you because you go to your left first, but rookie is playing zone defense back there. They've seen that play. They know you got Zach Ertz on the back side of that, and so he's sitting there in that hole covering his zone, and Carson predetermined that's where he was going to throw the ball. So the moment that he came back, he throws it without looking, and it's an interception that you can't have. It's your opening drive. Not only that, you give the ball to the Cowboys right in scoring position, and Dallas, they get 3 points right off the top.
Yep.
And so you put yourself behind the 8 ball immediately.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles never led in this ball game.
Yeah.
That's what's shocking to me is the Eagles, as back and forth as it was, the Eagles were able to tie the game, going into the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, they never led in this contest at home. So we look at the numbers for Carson Wentz there, completing, again, 72, almost 73% of his passes, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns in the interception. And I credit Carson, while I know Dave brought up the point that the accuracy and some of the timing with the receivers wasn't there tonight. And he rightfully pointed to the play in the end zone to Alshon Jeffrey, where Jeffrey, I think, did the right job sitting down in the zone coverage. Carson Wentz tried to continue to lead him with the pass and ended up getting broken up there. Yeah. But there were times where defenders were draped on Carson and he couldn't step into throws. I think about the one pass to Alshon Jeffrey, I believe it was late in the first half, and Chidobe Awuzie came over and made a great pass breakup, because if Carson could step into the throw, make it a laser, it's going to be there. It's there for them. But unfortunately, Carson Wentz, did what he could in the pocket, but the pressure, there were bodies around him all throughout the course of the night, and it probably affected the timing, and the throws and the delivery and just the processing, knowing that consistently the pressure was going to be around him.
Yeah, I think the interception early threw him off a little bit. I think he became a little bit gun shy, which is something we're not used to seeing when it comes to Carson Wentz. I thought in that first half there were a lot of balls that he was throwing to open receivers, and the receivers had to go to the ground to catch the ball, and they were open. And we're used to seeing Carson hit guys between their numbers where they can run after they catch the ball. And I thought in that first half, he had some throws there where he got picked up by his receivers on Alshon, Zach. They all had to go down to the ground to sort of catch balls. And I think it was because of the first interception. He just became a little bit gun shy, because you spend 2 weeks telling yourself, I'm going to take care of the football. He had turned the ball over. Some of them not his fault, getting sacked, fumbling from behind. That stuff you think about over the bye week, and you want to make sure you take care of the football. And he comes out on that opening drive and has that happen. I just remember the picture of him walking to the sideline, and he's looking up at the sky saying, "Oh, you know better than that. You know better than that. And why would you do that?" So I thought he settled down in the second half. Certainly made a lot of big throws in the second half. That was a nice deep ball he threw to Nelson.
Beautiful
to
play.
sort of get them
Beautiful
back
play.
into scoring. You just can't have the games where you only play a half, and that's really been the trademark of this team this year. Is that they've yet to put together, with the exception of the Giants game, they've yet to put together 4 quarters of good football. And that's why you've seen the up and down play. You see them play well in spurts, and either they can't hold on to a lead like the Tennessee game or the Carolina game, or they find themselves picking it up a little bit too late, like the Minnesota game, like the game tonight where you finally get the offense going in the fourth quarter, but by then it's too late. It's too late. And then, a valiant effort given tonight, but, it's happened far too many times this year where you walk away from a football game saying, man, we had our chances. We had more than our opportunities to win this football game tonight. And I thought in the first half, they didn't get anything going, which really made a bigger hole for them to have to dig out of.
Well, that's the thing. You can live with it if this is the first time that you're doing the woulda, coulda, shoulda game, okay? And to me, I thought the Minnesota game, they were pretty much outplayed in that game throughout the course of it. So I don't even think that was one of the ones they could have won. It's really the Carolina game and the Tennessee game. Those 2 games are the ones, and now tonight you add into the mix. Those are the 3 when you're looking back at the end of the season that you're going to be saying to yourself, if they could have just closed the game out, it would have made all the difference in the world there. But for whatever reason, the offense is not able to get things going early. And it's especially disappointing because, again, you're coming off the bye week, so you've had time to self-scout. You've been extra time to prepare for the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are coming off the short week, a demoralizing loss to Tennessee because they probably figured that game was in their building. They should have been able to win that one. They were getting Amari Cooper. That was their big new shiny toy here, the first quarter touchdown. They were about to go 14-0, and then Dak Prescott threw the red zone touchdown, and then all of a sudden things fell apart from there. And then the Cowboys couldn't stop the Titans on third down in that game. It was the opposite tonight. They flipped the script, and the Eagles just could not get anything going on third down until late. Kudos to Jordan Matthews, who had a couple of key third down conversions, especially a third and long there in the second half. But overall, though, that third down offense just not doing enough to keep the offense on the field to probably also save some of the stamina for the defense as well.
And that's really the big difference this year, compared to last year. Is
Great point.
The Eagles found ways to close out games. Whether it was with their defense coming up with big stops like the game against Carolina last year, or whether it was their offense closing out games with the lead, being able to put their foot on a team's throat. It's far too many times this year that they haven't been able to close out football games. And the other thing that's happening this year that didn't happen last year is time of possession. The Eagles were number 1 in the league last year in time of possession, and they've had a few games this year where the opposing team has had the ball more than they did. And that was the story tonight, is that first half, it seemed like Dallas had the ball like 20 minutes in the first half to the Eagles 10. So you brought up this point earlier about, the defense possibly being worn down in that fourth quarter because of how long the Cowboys offense was out there in the first half. That is a possibility, but you look at this team and you say, for whatever reason, they can't close out football games this year. Last year that was the mark of a championship team, being able to win those close games. And this year we just haven't found ways to be able to win the close games.
It's fun.
It's almost been the opposite, where we found ways to lose the games.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that you were comparing this year to last year. I thought you were going to go with the third down because the Eagles were phenomenal.
That's the other thing. Yeah,
the Eagles were outstanding on third down and
Yeah.
in the red zone last year, and tonight it was a microcosm of the entire season, just struggling in both regards. So it just hurts so much, hurts the soul seeing Dallas, almost bring back 2016 the way that they did tonight with Dak and with Zeke Elliott thriving the way they did, and dealing and handing the Eagles such a difficult loss at home. The Eagles-Cowboys series has not been great for the Eagles at the Link. Really the better part of the last 10 seasons, I would say. It seems like it's either end of season games that are meaningless. Last year, the Eagles had everything wrapped up. The previous season, the Cowboys did. But you have to go back really to like 2008. It was the 44-6 game where you could have a good memory of an Eagles-Cowboys home game. During that time, most of the time, the Cowboys have had the upper hand here in Philly.
Yeah, and we usually go down there and play well in Dallas.
That's where the good memories are. They're all down there for the most part.
In Dallas, just one of those weird series, and the Cowboys coming in here tonight. Give them credit. They didn't come in here and lay down. They came in and played like as if they had something to play for.
They had more energy tonight. That's the thing. At least you're right. More so the defense.
And their defense came in and played until their offense could get something going. Until their offense could sort of find some sort of momentum, their defense kept them in the game. And then really that's been their calling card all year long. It has been their defense. Their defense, third in the league in points given up, so it's going to be difficult to move the ball against them. DeMarcus Lawrence is a all-pro defensive end. No Lane Johnson out there tonight. I didn't think Carson was under a ton of pressure, but he was under some pressure out there tonight. And even when he didn't get sacked, you could see the pocket sort of collapsing on him a little bit. So.
Well, they showed on the broadcast that he would, the defender would have it in the arm, but he's still able. Carson's strong enough, to his credit, to be able to escape and get out of it, though.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you have to be able to do playing quarterback in this league.
All right, let's send it over to the link to hear from head coach Doug Pederson on the loss.
Doug, you had 5 3-and-outs in your first possession of the season. What do you think is the running theme? Why you guys can't get started on those first drives?
Yeah, it's something that we talk about each week, trying to start fast, and obviously it's not getting done. We just got to continue to evaluate it, and see why. We're coming up a little bit short, whether it's a yard or two. It's something that we continue to address it, and we got to make sure we fix it.
On 3rd and 2 in the fourth quarter, it was a 5-yard loss. What happened on that play there?
Well, we anticipated pressure and we got it, and the throw right there was, to Corey, and without watching the tape because it was on the far sideline, can't really tell you exactly, what happened, but, anticipated the pressure, we got it, tried to get the ball out quick, and try to execute the play. We just failed to do that.
Doug, what was your message to the team in the locker room after the game?
Message is basically it's pretty simple. Starting with myself, all of us, we just look at ourselves in the mirror, and are we doing enough? Are we giving enough? Each week it's a strain. I mean, you have to strain yourself to make plays. I mean, that's just the way this game is, and we didn't do enough of that today, and that's the disappointing thing. And just gave up too many plays defensively, and then offense didn't execute, enough. And so that's the disappointing thing. But each person, each coach, each player in that locker room, we have to really look at yourself and decide every day you come to work that you're going to give your best and you're going to do everything you can to get better and help this team win.
You could tell that you came out of the halftime locker room angry, fired up. The whole team did, right? It all fizzled out. What happened?
The guys were excited. I mean, we had 3-and-out on defense, exactly what we talked about at halftime. Offense was able to go down and I believe get points on that next drive, and it just felt like things were beginning to turn for us. And I don't know. That's the the disheartening thing is something we got to look at, and I've got to look at, and make sure that whether the guys are fresh going into games, if how we practice, just a lot of things can factor into some of that stuff, and then just keep talking and keep reiterating the point to the guys that we have to continue to finish. We got to finish in practice. It just can't, show up in a game and expect to finish a drive or finish a game. We got to do those things during the week.
Doug, could Golden have handled more, been more involved in the offense?
He had. I guess the short answer would be yeah. We had a certain number of plays for him and wanted to get him into the game and just get him some touches, and I thought one thing we did do was, we did spread the ball around, whether it was through RPOs or play action or even just straight drop back. I know Zach had, 14 or 16 targets or something like that, but he's the type of player that can handle that, and Alshon as well. So as we go, we'll continue to increase the things that we do with him.
What went into the play call on 4th and 1, the Josh Adams run play?
Yeah, again, offense, was just designed to, basically circle the defense. And the only thing that kills the play is penetration. And we allowed the penetration to happen and stopped the run.
On the 4th down to Zach, just what you see on that play? How much depth is he supposed to get on that in regards to the market?
Yeah, it's a route that's it's going to, again, it's going to get you the 4th down or get you any down really. And I give credit to Dallas, to Heath. I mean, he came up and it was a contested catch. Zach did a great. Ball was a little bit high, but he came down with the ball and we were just about a half a yard short. So just a great play by them, and it was a play that I would call again. Just you're putting it in Carson's hands, you're putting it in Zach's hands, and that's what you want.
The message you had after the game, it's been said before this year. At what point are you concerned that this is who you are 9 games into the season?
Well, I mean, if we got to change who we are, then doesn't mean that we have to go out and grab a whole bunch of new players or anything like that. I mean, we just got to continue to work and continue to coach and teach and get better. And we just got to do a little bit more each week. It's not a bunch of big changes. We're close in a lot of areas, but to each man, coaches and players, we have to decide when we come to work that we're gonna give our best today, and we're gonna get ready for another good team.
Defense gave up 14 points tonight in the 4th quarter, 21 against Carolina in the 4th quarter. Are they wearing down late?
Well, I think one of the things that we knew coming into this game was that we were going to get a steady diet of the run game, and Zeke he's a big back, he's a powerful back, and probably some of that a little bit, but we also I thought overall we didn't tackle great. That's one of the areas that we got to get better at too, is tackling in space, tackling in the box, and just making sure that we get the guys on the ground. And there were too many yards after contact and things like that, and so those are areas that we got to concentrate on.
Doug, you've had a lot of injuries in the secondary. You had Lane Johnson. You've had a bunch of injuries at skill positions. Are the injuries starting to have an effect on the team and its performance?
Well, I think it can, but you've been around us enough to know that we're not going to let that be an excuse. It's a next man up mentality, and we just got to make sure that the next guy is ready to go and prepared. And in Lane's case, I mean, obviously Big V steps in and does a great job. He does the same thing for JP, and he plays well. So we just gotta keep fighting. I mean, 1-1 in the division. There's a lot of division games ahead of us, and some good football left.
Was it especially disappointing tonight coming off a bye week? I guess you were hoping to kind of start your run to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you try to. The month of November, I think, as teams begin to sort of separate themselves, and we did take a step back tonight, and that's the disappointing thing. And listen, we just we're not going to make excuses for anything. We're just going to come to work and get ready for New Orleans.
How do you evaluate Carson's play tonight?
I thought early, there were some things that he'd probably like to get back. I think the accuracy was off just a touch, but I think as he settled into the game, he did some really, really nice things. Made some really, really good throws, tight contested throws. I know he'd like to have the throw to Alshon back. I think that was a touchdown pass there. He'd like to have that one back. But I thought overall he played well. You know, he managed the offense and did some really good things.
He seemed really locked in on Ertz. Were there other people he could have gone to on some of those plays?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, until I look at the tape and see, I mean, you know, that's Ertz is a pretty good receiver, and he's a big part of the offense. But you know, until I look at the film to really understand, you know, where the ball went and see, it's hard to say.
Are you concerned, Doug?
Excuse me?
Are you concerned
about
this team this season?
Well, obviously you get a little concerned after a loss, and you scratch your head and you try to put your finger on some things, but at the same time I understand that, you know, this is still our division's right in front of us again. I mean, you know, you got 7 games remaining, and you know, it's a prideful group, and that's the thing that you know, I trust those players in there, and they'll get it figured out. And you know, it just comes down to, you know, like I said earlier, I mean, just each man, and you know, we can't worry about 2, 3, 4 games from now. You can't worry about the postseason or any of that. You got to worry about the next game and focus on the next game and do everything you can to try to win that game.
You've said previously that one of your goals every season is to win all your home games. Having lost now 3 in a row at home, does that make it sort of especially painful?
Well, they won the goal, didn't it? Right. So we gotta just focus on the next game. All right.
All right, head coach Doug Pederson addressing the media at the link following the Eagles' 27-20 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to hear from quarterback Carson Wentz in just a little bit, but first we're going to bring you Merrill Cam and show you what it's like inside the booth as the Hall of Fame duo of Merrill Reese and Mike Quick bring you tonight's action.
Back goes Prescott. He's looking. He steps up. He's hit, and he's dropped. Brandon Graham with the sack.
Yeah, and Brandon Graham needed that sack. Dak Prescott is going to hold the ball, especially if guys are close to the receivers. He holds the ball too long. They're going to be able to get sacks tonight.
Listen to the crowd. Swim in motion. Prescott takes the snap. He's back. He's looking. He pumps. He's hit. He's sacked at the 15. Michael Bennett. No, that is Michael Bennett.
Yeah.
Bennett had him at the 15.
I tell you what, Bennett just continues to fight. Now, that wasn't going to be a sack, but Bennett would not be denied. He continues to fight.
Carson, you've had the ball in your hand now late in the game to either tie or go ahead several times, and you guys just haven't kind of gotten over the top there. What were some of the problems down the stretch?
Yeah, we just didn't execute. I mean, we came out the second half, thought we were moving the ball well. Slow start really hurt us looking back. First half putting up 3 points. The turnover I had, you know, all that stuff's going to make it tough to win in games like this where they're a big kind of ball control team and your drives are really limited. And so every drive is really important, and we started off slow, and that really hurt us. And at the end of the game, we just didn't get it done.
Why are you starting slow?
I'm not sure.
3rd and 2, then 4th and 7 there in the fourth quarter. What went wrong?
Execution. I mean, at the end of the day, execution. Screenplay, we just missed it. The play that hurts. You know, we dial it up, and it's right at the sticks, and came up short.
Hey, Carson, you and Zach have obviously had a lot of success this year. I think you targeted them 16 times today. Is there good and bad to that? I mean, do you want to move the ball to different people a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, it's always great when you can spread the ball around to everybody. Tonight it just so happened to be, you know, a lot of chances with Zach with the way they were playing coverages and the way they played their techniques. And, you know, Zach had a great game, you know, so I don't know how many times we threw to him or how many completions he had, but I'm sure it was a lot. And so to have that chemistry with him, with the way they were playing him, that's just the way it worked out tonight.
Carson, on that, going back to that 4th and 6 or 7 or whatever it was to Ertz, why did that play, fall short of the sticks on that?
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to be close. It was tight man coverage, so we knew it was going to be right at the stick, and at the end of the day, we came up short.
You had the one opportunity to Alshon down the right sideline. What'd you see on that play?
Which one are you talking about?
It was Alshon deep on the right in the deep.
Earlier in the game? Second quarter, I think.
If DB knocked it away.
Yeah, I got to get more behind that throw. Couldn't quite finish it. I couldn't quite see how the end result was, but I know I didn't get quite enough on the throw.
Carson, on the attempt to Alshon in the end zone, did you expect him to go a little further on that, or what happened on that incompletion?
Yeah, I mean, the way they were playing coverage, we had talked about it all week, and then the way they reacted on the field was a little differently, and that's one that we're kicking ourselves. We want to have back, and just missed it.
About the slow starts, I mean, I think you guys have 3 touchdowns in 9 games in the first quarter, I think 2 in the same game. Do you think it's an issue? Do you think it's something that you need to resolve, or is it just a fluky thing? I mean, do you feel different early in games?
I know I personally don't feel different. Some people could say you want to settle in, all those things. I don't feel that way. I thought that was something, I don't want to talk about last year, but that's something that we did really well last year. And it's really hard to put your finger on why it is the way it is this year. A lot of it's just little execution things that are a big deal. And so, I mean, we got to go back and look and see what our team's doing to us early in the game. Why are we having these slow starts? And really, look hard in the mirror, because I think tonight that's what cost us.
Doug had mentioned about
seems like the scripted plays that the other team is all over them every week. 1-yard passes and picks and things like that. It's like they know what's coming almost.
What was the question?
To the layman on the slow starts, it looks like the scripted plays are just being run right into the teeth of the defense over and over again.
It's good observation.
Doug had mentioned, you said, look at yourselves in the mirror. Doug said that was his message to the team afterwards. You have to make sure that you're doing everything you can to prepare. What do you, as someone who has the pulse of the locker room, what are you sensing in that respect?
I mean, I know this one hurt. This one hurt. Obviously, Sunday Night Football, divisional opponent. The Cowboys coming into our home. Really, the way we've played the last couple times at home, that's not what we pride ourselves on, and this one hurt. So I know we got a lot of veterans in there, a lot of leadership, and like you said, like Coach said, and I'm going to keep echoing the same thing. We all got to look in the mirror. What can we do differently? Where can we be better? And we realized a lot of people are going to want to write us off at this point, and now it's just time to play ball and try and go shock some people.
Do you feel like you to
follow up on that, that's been the message before from Doug, from you. What makes you think these next 7 games are going to be any different?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that's been the message before. To some extent, I feel like this press conference is even a broken record almost. We've been here a couple times, and we know at the end of the day, every one of these games is close. And this is the National Football League; it's hard to win. And we've let a handful get away from us now that we're really just kicking ourselves. And like you said, I mean, we've said it before, so it's really just are we going to step up? Are we going to make the corrections? Are we going to come out faster each week? And I believe we have the guys to do that.
It seems like some of the designed shorter passes, screens, have not been as successful as they were last year. Is that? Do you see that? Is that a theme that's been running through the course of the year?
It's hard to say, honestly. After tonight, I'll have to go watch the film, just thinking back on some. I know we had a couple screens that were right there. Even that 3rd and 2 late in the game, we had it right there. We just the one guy, knifed through and made the play, and they're the same stuff that we hit last week or 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville for the 35-yard touchdown or whatever it was. And so those are just little things that we're just missing by this much that make a big difference.
Carson, it looked like Golden kind of had a fairly limited package of plays. Is that tough at all when you're trying to work a guy into the offense?
I mean, anytime you're trying to work a guy in the middle of the season, it's tough. He's done a great job picking things up from the second he got here. He's putting in a lot of time at the facility, meeting with coaches, asking questions. And I feel confident in him wherever we put him and whatever we ask him to do. Hard to say. Could we have used him differently tonight? Hard to say, but I'm really confident in him as a player and as a teammate going forward here. And I'm sure he'll get more and more involved as we go.
Carson, this may seem like an unfair question considering how far you've come to come back from your injury, but what do you think you can do better or more of to get this team back on track?
Yeah, I mean, we just got to execute better. At the end of the day, and that comes on my shoulders, that comes on the O-line, that comes on everybody. Execution is the biggest thing. It's really hard to stand up here after a game and just pinpoint one thing. Starting slow, that's something that I think I can do better in making plays early in the game, trying to get guys going. But again, it's really hard to just put your finger on one thing. But executing, some of the situational football, some of those red zone plays like the play to Alshon, those are things we just got to hit. We got to hit, and that's at the end of the day just execution.
Take 2 more questions. Are you seeing the execution in practice? What's it been like in the practice field? Is it just in the game that it kind of pops up?
Yeah, I mean, practice looks good. I thought even tonight execution later in the game wasn't bad. Just early in the game we were just slow start, missing things here and there. At the end of the day, though, that's a good football team. That's a good defense. They did some things early to kind of get us out of our rhythm a little bit. So you got to tip your hat to them at some point. And I thought we made great adjustments at halftime. We just, it was too little, too late.
Can there be a tendency to maybe try a little too hard to start fast to the point where it becomes counterproductive?
I mean, there could be. I can't say that's what's happening to us. Like I said, it's a culmination of things. But at the end of the day, you got to tip your hat to them. Like I said, they did some things early to kind of take away what we wanted to do, made some plays, and we just didn't execute enough early in the game.
Thanks, Carson.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so we had a break from Merrill Cam to bring you Carson Wentz's press conference. Carson Wentz, 360 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, saying the bottom line is we just didn't execute. Okay, reason for the slow starts, we're just not executing. What happened late in the game, the 4th down that was just short to Zach Ertz. Just the execution is just not there with his football team. And Carson says, practice, everything looks good. The game plan looks right. It's just, for whatever reason, not translating to the field. And your heart just goes out to Carson because you know how hard he's fought, how hard he's worked to get to this point. Al Palantonio asking the question, might be a little unfair because of what you have done to get to this point, but what more can you do? I don't know what more Carson can do. I'm quite honestly at a loss. I'm at a loss for what's going on with the offense at this point because in some ways Carson's playing better than he did last season, but it's just mistakes early on. It's little things that seem that are just not clicking like they were a year ago.
I tell you, and Carson will be the first to tell you, he's not looking for any excuses for his play not being up to where he expects it to be. And sometimes you got to look past his final numbers, right? And for him, fair or unfair, at that position, he's going to be judged at the most critical moments of the game. 3rd down, red zone, 4th quarter. How do you play? See, quarterbacks that perform well in those circumstances, they erase the incompletions and the turnovers. They erase that stuff when you answer the bell at that time of the game. And I think that's the biggest difference from Carson's play last year to this year is that he was money in clutch situations. He was money in the 4th quarter when you needed a big throw on 3rd down, when you needed to score in the red zone. He made those throws. He didn't miss the throw like he did to Alshon Jeffrey. There is no miscommunication, right? He finds a way to make those throws in the 4th quarter like he did last year. And that's really what's missing this year is the clutch Carson Wentz. Not that he's not clutch. It's just that in those moments, those plays haven't come to fruition for him this year. And I know it can be frustrating for him because he's saying to himself, I'm the same player. And he is the same player. He has the same skill set. He's still one of the premier quarterbacks in this league. But for whatever reason, in that 4th quarter, he's missed on some opportunities there. And that's how you save your team, right? That's how you pull your team out of the fire when they don't necessarily play well for 4 quarters. He's that missing piece. He's that eraser that if his play is there in the fourth quarter, well, we'll overlook some of the things that happens early in the games. But when it doesn't happen, now we're looking at every little thing, the throw that you don't hit Alshon on. And that's just, it's the nature of that position. It's the nature of the game. You know, Doug Pederson and Carson Wentz, their performances will always be under the microscope, right? You know, we may casually brush over some of the other facets of the game, but the head coach and the quarterback, we comb through their performance with a fine-tooth comb. Everything, every decision that Doug makes, every decision Carson makes with the football, we like to go back and look at it and say, well, he should have did this or he should have did that. And when you're sitting at 4-5 and you lost 3 straight games at home, nothing feels good right now. You know, Carson will tell you, he'll look at that 70+% completion percentage, over 300 and something yards thrown. He'll give all that back for a W,
Certainly.
right? He'll give all those numbers back for a W. And this team, because of Carson Wentz, the expectations are high every time they step on the field. You know, we know what they were able to do last year, and we know how hard he's worked to get back on the field this year. And it's just disappointing when the end result isn't what you hope for. And we know this team should be better than 4-5. I mean, this is a.
But they're not.
But they're not.
But they're not. That's the thing.
And Bill Parcells said it a long time ago, and it's a truism. You are what your record says you are. And this is a team that's been up and down. It's been inconsistent. Have not played well for 4 quarters very often this year, and that's why you get up and down performances.
See, I understood that with a third down in the red zone, they executed at such a high level last year. It was an out of this world
up.
There was going to be some regression to an extent, but you didn't think the bomb was going to fall out with as compared to last year. Ike, let's go into our turning points for tonight's game. I'll let you kick things off here. What was the turning point of the game for you?
Well, I tell you, you know, the Eagles' offense, they got themselves back into the game, right? They finally found their rhythm. They're scoring points. Tied to score at 13. Cowboys came back down 20-13 Dallas. Tied to score at 20. And here's where I think the turning point changed. This is where the Eagles' defense needed to get off the field to get the ball back to their offense. They tie that game up at 20. The Eagles' defense allows the Dallas Cowboys' offense to go right back down the field and take that lead again, 27-20. That was the turning point in the game for me. Once the offense started to get something rolling, they just needed the defense to come up with a stop for them. And I believe the Eagles could have took their first lead in the game had the defense gotten a stop in the fourth quarter.
I agree. My turning point along the same lines came a little bit earlier. It was really the end of the third quarter when Ronald Darby got injured.
Yeah.
Because at that point, look, okay, again, you're already without Jalen Mills and Sidney Jones to begin with. You're going against an offense that, look, it hasn't put up big numbers, but you have to account for Amari Cooper and Allen Hurns and Cole Beasley coming out of the slot. Okay, those are some guys that you're going to have to, are going to give you problems if you don't have the right personnel on the field. So you work all week to get Avonte Maddox ready to play both the safety and the slot position. Rasul Douglas moves to the outside so he can prove himself. You're fine at those positions, but Ronald Darby has been the one guy that, while he might get maligned for his tackling ability and maybe not being able to come up with big interceptions, look, he was a guy, the consistent presence who has played well in the last few games for you. You lose him late in the third quarter and you're looking around, who else do we got? We have Chandon Sullivan, who's a rookie free agent, who a guy I liked in training camp a lot, who earned his way onto the roster and is battling for playing time, but he doesn't have an NFL experience. And then Crayvon LeBlanc was claimed off waivers from the Detroit Lions this week. So those were your two healthy options once Ronald Darby went out. So at that point, you roll with Chandon Sullivan, and whether it was basically because of the lack of experience in the secondary, Jim Schwartz had to call the game differently, so it wasn't so much on the players' standpoint from that point. But bottom line was the Eagles' defense just not able, this goes back to Ike's point, not able to get the job done, and the secondary was undermanned. The defense was on the field for a long time there in the second half, as we saw by the time of possession numbers. Just overall here, just not able to get off the field when they needed those big plays. And that, again, it was something that you saw from this team last year. But consistently, this is not just a one-time thing. Consistently now, we've seen the team not be able to come up big in the fourth quarter, especially on defense. And this is before when they had big leads. This is when you're battling, going tooth and nail with a team, basically trying to save, to try to get a win streak going, to try to build some momentum for the second half of the season. Coming off the bye week, just not able to get the job done once again in the fourth quarter. And I think just, you already were thin in the secondary. Ronald Darby going down with that knee injury, and we have to wait to find out if it's something that's going to linger and be beyond just for tonight's game. But once you lose him, that rock that you had starting on the outside corner for you, it just makes it very difficult to execute any kind of exotic defense because of the players you have there on the field. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our first break here on the Postgame Show presented by Ricoh. We're going to have a one-on-one interview with Doug Pederson and Hall of Famer Mike Quick coming up in a little bit, as well as the Ricoh Review as Fran Duffy and Greg Cosell take you inside the big plays of the game to explain how the Eagles came out on the losing end of this game tonight by a score of 27-20. Now, if you are following us on Facebook or Twitter, you need to come on over to PhiladelphiaEagles.com or the app to watch the rest of the show. We'll give you a few minutes to get situated.